So are we shooting? And you see that the sound is coming in? Perfect. In that case, I said, welcome to another of Agapi Boat Club's instruction videos. And today we're going to do the perfect onboarding on an Agapi 800, and then actually we're going to continue with an Agapi 950. And together with me today, we have our summer worker crew, as well as Josh and Niklas, our head of operations behind the camera. And the purpose with this onboarding now is to teach all our new members, perhaps as well some existing members, as well as everyone coming in working with us, what you should think about when you do a check, either a service check, which our crew is doing, or a normal onboarding, which our members are doing. So let's start from the very beginning. The first thing you can do when you come down to the boat, when you book the boat, is to make sure that you're actually standing at, you're picking the right boat. And that is quite a common problem, actually. So you always make sure that you find the right number, which is normally the boats are actually more like this, not like this. We have put this boat now like this because it's going to be easy to show. Normally what you do is just to check the mooring. When you check the mooring, you check the lines, and this is really important, guys, that the members they moored the boat correctly. Correctly is you will be able to tell that they use the right knots, and the line should be pretty tight, not super tight like a piano string, but not like this in the water. It's quite easy. That's a part of the actual when you sort of speak rate the previous user. You check the mooring, and then you always check to see, do you see something on the boat that is big? Have they left some kind of mark? That's the second thing you look at. Then you step on the boat, and the first thing you do when you step on the boat is actually walking all the way back, and then you come into the most important thing that needs to be inspected every week, which is, of course, the engine. You always check the engine, and for all the members, you're supposed to take a photo just to document that you have checked the engine. Last year we had 8 problems out of 1,800. It's excellent. I mean, that is because we have excellent members, and they're all very honest. But the most important thing is to really check that we don't have a damage here. That should be reported in that case, right? So once you have done this, you are actually ready to start doing the onboarding and getting the key. But since this is more of a training session, I will actually I will do it much more profoundly than you normally do. So I will now go back to the very front and show you what you as summer workers need to do, or staff. And of course, if you're going out for a long time, you should also check that the boats are equipped as they should. All boats are exactly equipped the same way. There could be some changes between Mallorca, Finland, and Sweden, but the basic equipment is always the same, regardless where we are. And on the Agapi 800, in the front, you should always find 4 fenders. 4 fenders is quite a big space here. You always find a gray 12-meter rope for buoys when you anchor on a buoy. And then you find the rock mooring kit. This is mainly for obviously Scandinavia when you anchor close to the island. This does not exist in Mallorca, for example. So this is a quick check that everything is fine. Everything was complete. Nice. And then what we're going to do next now is moving back. And once you always move on the boat, you're just checking that this boat looks, I can tell you right away, someone has been cleaning this boat. It's a 5-star, so it looks great. And what you see now is a canvas configuration, which is kind of unusual, I should say, because normally in Scandinavia, you either leave this on or you leave it off, but then you roll these ones up. And this is a very common area of mistakes, I can tell you. Under here, you will find these, right? And I will show you now. And it's very common that they put this wrong, like this, or even like that. Very common. If they forget to do this, this is not to rate them 5 to 4. No, it's just a small comment because these are an example of the details that is very easy to forget, right? So when it comes to the canvas, you can also see that this is also a common problem. The only thing you need to do is just push it up like this, then you release the pressure. You add 3 centimeters like this, nothing more. You never remove this. And now the pressure is gone, so you can just take this away. Another problem is sometimes they think that this is what they're putting around the. No, it's this. This rubber string is only because sometimes when you remove this one falls into the water. So this is just to keep this on, right? Very simple. And and if we film from there, the canvas, as you've seen here, the canvas is really made for easy operation. And now you need these strings. So you never fold the plastics, you only fold the fabric. This is easy enough to do yourself, like this. And then with some practice, it doesn't need to be perfect. You just roll it up like this, and then you use these and you put them back like this. And now it looks nice and tight, right? Same principle in the front, but I will not demonstrate that. These are very simple to handle yourself. The back part, if you don't use it, you just put it in here. The front part, you will also notice that's easier if you're two to handle it, right? And then you will see it's a very common mistake that when you put on the front, that they forget to put these side ones into the whatever they call, but you understand what I mean. So always check this internally as well. And then what's also important to check, especially if you're going away for a couple of days, that you have the anchor, and the anchor line should always be here. That's standard on all boats. And on the other side, you will find the diesel. This boat specifically is the only boat in Scandinavia that does not have a diesel. But otherwise, the red diesel fuel tank is here with the black mark, and that means diesel. Same thing here, if we have members going out for 2-3 days, it's always good to check for them that there is some diesel. It's a member's responsibility to make sure to fill it again, but it's really good, and we have diesels in the office to make sure that they're filled. Another thing which is also, when you're standing here, and these are the things that could, on the Agapi 800, always two red, like this, nicely put. It's okay. We shouldn't be too high, right? And then always, on all boats, the boat hook. Easy, accessible, right? Always in the aft. And now when I do this, I can see that this boat soon will need a little bit more of in-depth cleaning. It's quite okay. I wouldn't give this perhaps 5 stars, the cleaning now, but it's quite okay. What's interesting here as well is that you don't need to go into the aft cabin all the time, but once in a while, when you do the weekly service check-in, or if you as a member, if you're going out for a longer time, you really want to make sure that you have everything, then you should. And the trick here is very simple. You remove these like this, and then you have a big storage here. If we film from there, here you always have a cleaning kit. Yep, cleaning kit. You have for the tubes. Here you have now they put the aft canvas for the aft part. And here you have the gas for the kitchen. And this is something we check every month, more or less, that we still have gas. That's a special instruction. Normally, 1 container of gas is fine for the whole season because very few members use the kitchen. But it's and for you as a member, if you go out for a long time, you should always check the gas as well. So, and then here you also find the table leg, right? And this is all complete 100%. And as we are here, I would also like to show you this feature, which is also really cool. Here you have this feature that you can fold this up, and with this, you can actually do like this, and voila, you have a wonderful sun cushion here, even with a cushion for the ones sitting here. And for everyone to know as well, the water, the showers here, once in a while, same thing here. This is not really Agapi staff responsibility. It's mainly the member. If you're going out for a long time and you want the water, you need to secure that the water, which you fill in here, here's the water with the blue H2O, water, always blue, and the fuel is here, always green, 95. And the stickers is something we all need to be, especially the crew, and we need to make sure that the stickers are put where they should be put, right? And so this is pretty cool area. And then I don't need to show here right now, but most people know that here, this is where you put the table. This one you fold down. You have the kitchen here and the refrigerator here, and then you exit the kitchen here. So here you create a really cool environment. And what you should do, when from a crew point of view, just make sure that it's all tight and put. So, okay, and this is perfect. So now we can put this back. And all of this is done very easily. It has push buttons, but they're so tight, so you don't really need them. It's got 3 hinges here. And voila, it's like in the beginning. So before you start riding anything, because we're still in inspection mode, now it's the time to bring out the key, right? And we all know where the key is. It's here. And with the key, now it's time to go down to the cabin. And now I will ask you, Niklas, to step into the boat. Oops. Now let's see. So, always remember to remove the door key before opening this. The reason why a lot of keys are a little bit bent, because you forget about that, right? And then you always step down to the boat. And this is actually, if you hear me now from the outside, this is where you can really tell if the previous member or staff have given that extra, done that extra small thing to create a smile when the new one is onboarding. Because when you go in here and you see this, the 2 Agapi pillows looks perfectly, the sun cushion perfectly folded, the 4 life jackets always on the right side, perfectly stored, and always this one put in a way that you just can throw it in the hand, and here it is. This is the Agapi way. It has to be on the same, because that's what creates the feeling of it's your boat, because everything is always at the same place. This boat is equipped with the toilet, and then the main switch is here, and here you have the dimmable lights. You should always, from a Agapi crew point of view, always make sure that it all works perfectly, right? And here you also find the very important first aid kit. And this should also be checked by the crew, this is where we store the toolbox here. Okay, always checking that it's here. And then in the very front, this is where we keep the table. And this is also where you have access to the bow thruster, and house battery is in here, right? So you know where it is. So let's now start the actual onboarding, or check-in rather. So with this, with the key here, the dead man's grip, this is extremely common. Most of the calls to the Agapi Global Support is because you forget this. Everyone that is used to inboard, they forget that this has to be inserted, otherwise it makes an annoying noise. And then you need to turn on the ignition always in order to get the Yamaha instrument or the plotter started. And please remember here that we should all know, and it goes for both our crew as well as the members, if the boat is equipped with a Yamaha instrument, you always go to the cancel. This is what you use to get the check-in data. The used liters and the total hours. This is where you go. If it does not have this 5-inch instrument, it's always here on the plotter, regardless if it's a Simrad or Garmin. We only use Simrad or Garmin, but they have exactly the same information. You will be able to see it here. And this is also important for you, the crew, when you go and fill up the boat and so on, because you need to register it correctly, right? And it's also very important, both for you as a member and as for the crew, that you need to check that the plotter is left in the right, because sometimes members tend to play around with the plotters, they forget to put it back to normal, and that could be very confusing. So that's something that you as a crew also need to check, that this is perfect, right? So this is perfect condition there, this is perfect here. So now I just take my telephone. The first thing I do now is also the same thing with the service check-in. I will now rate the previous user. As I said, you don't know if that is a summer worker, one of our crews, or if it's another member. I would say this boat, it's a clear 5-star without any comments. It's perfect. I could tell one of you guys have been working with it. It's a 5-star. Next question I get is, have I seen any frogs on the boat? When I inspected the boats, I was looking, and of course, you should always go through before the noted frogs on the boat, right? And as we said, all boats, because we are talking about boats, always have some kind of frog. So in the booking details, you always go into the frog list and you see information, important. Because that's the biggest difference between owning a boat and being a club member, is that first difference is actually that our boats have less frogs than a private loan. But the thing is, on a private boat, you know the frogs. You had a boat, right? You know the frogs. On this boat, it might be so they popped up a new frog last week. So you need to go through to know the boat perfectly, right? And then, did you see anything else? Normally when you check in, you don't. It's like you just move on. And then you just check in, fuel used, and then the engine hours. And that's about it. Off you go, right? And then when you're coming back, we're just going to do the same process backwards. And fuel, hours, now the same question. Have we noticed any frogs while we were out? Because now normally, if you've seen something, it's when you've been out. And then you always put in the fuel level and how you rate the boat before leaving. And that's how we communicate. So it's very important that if you took a 5-star boat, you've been out for a couple of days, and you feel that now it's time for someone to clean it, you need to put it when you check out, right? And for the service checkout, it's the same thing. If you have, yes, here we have a question.
How do you access the frog list?
How do you access the frog list? The frog list you access from the members login. So also the crew needs a access to a members login. That's how you access to the frog list. And I think that's I think now I've spent more or less 15 minutes. So now what we will do is just taking questions. So I have the 3 of our crew here, and so anything you would like, you can also ask the question in Swedish and I will translate. That's not a problem. Anything you think about.
How do you connect to the speaker?
The stereo, of course. The stereo is genius. You just put hi-fi on, you take your telephone, you take the Bluetooth, you see the fusion, you push the fusion, and voila, your Spotify list and so on is connected to the music system. All boats have this system. It's really cool and good music, sound quality. And other questions?
Yeah, who do you call if you need assistance?
Who do you call if you need assistance? Blockbusters. No, on all boats, here we have it, here actually. Here. All boats should have, and we are soon actually adding a special number. It's Agapi Global Support. It's the same number wherever you are in the world, actually. We have a cooperation with the Swedish company that are trained on the boats. They will pick up 90% of all the boat related questions. For example, the dead man's grip. If you're trying to start with the gear inside, most of it they will pick up. If they don't know the answer, they will call the Agapi backup support, which we have internally. So that's the numbers you should call, and you should call that number just if you have a question. If you have a serious incident, of course, if you're just about to die, then you call 112. We have never had that call for more than 10 years. So it's always this number you call when you have a question. Okay? Any more questions? I always get a question about how fast the boats go and so on. So these boats, they go between 45 and 50 knots. That's a lot. We know, since we know all the statistics, we know all the time where the boats are and so on, that the average speed is between 20 and 25, which is great. And that's where you should be. That's when you get the best fuel efficiency. Using fairly large engines, but running them at 3,000, 3,300 RPMs gives a wonderful fuel efficiency since we have carbon fiber and all our boats are pretty light and fuel efficient. So it's, and I also get a question about what's the perfect speed, when you can cruise. Most boats are our boats, you go between 5, 10, 15, 20. They don't have a planing threshold like this. So you decide the speed. Obviously, when you pass gasoline stations on, you should not be in 7, 8 because that's when you get the largest wake from the boat. But that you will learn, since respect for, especially when they're fueling up and so on, that's important. Any other questions?
It's a common mistake to start the engine with it tilted up. Why is that so bad?
Yeah, it's a common. The question was, is it a common problem that you start the engine once it's tilted up? Now, it doesn't happen that often, and it's not a real problem as long as you tilt it down quickly or just turn it off. The engine should always, if you show the engine, Niklas, the engine should always be like this, in the center and fully up. That's the way you can actually easily check if the propeller has a dent before you leave, and you always check that it was okay after you left as well. So they should always be left like this. That way it doesn't grow on the shaft or propeller either. So that's the way we should leave there. And as I said, make sure that it's in the center, because if not, we will get problems with the steering cables and so on. Anything else that we have forgotten? How do they behave when you drive in 40 knots? That's a part of the training actually. You can drive these boats even in 50 knots, and I can sit like this. Nothing happens. And that's both really cool, but it's also kind of dangerous because you become speed blind. So that's why we are so focused on the training we have, onboard training, that these boats, they are so high performance that you really need to drive with caution. Any other questions? Or are we done? I think so. I think we're 16, 17 minutes. So once again,